Good evening everyone, my name is Hector Doomhammer, and I'd like to welcome you to the penultimate Subfaction Spotlight. With me as always, Zenothist.
Yes, good evening everyone, welcome to the second to last Subfaction Spotlight! Woo! Featuring the Latin Confederation. So, Doom, let's get started with the, without further ado, let's get started with the basic tank, which, as usual, as we always do, the Jaguar tank. Which I believe is the lightest Soviet tank in the arsenal.
It is. It is.
Ooh, excellent.
What makes the Jaguar tank not very special is the fact that it's cheap,
armored.
it's fast, low armor. But what makes it special is, as you can see, due to the fact that we given it the highest passenger survivability rate, which means that when it's elite I can guarantee 100% passenger survivability. I'm not too sure about veteran and rookie, but
yeah, that's slightly low, but it's pretty high. Yeah, but as you can see, the Jaguar tank is kind of a mediocre Soviet tank in general. It's got reasonably light armor. It's fairly cheap, but what it does have as a unique feature is that if it's destroyed, it has a very large chance of ejecting its pilot, who is armed with a with a suicide vest. So that he can either run into enemy fire and try to do a little bit more damage. But personally, I would advise to keep him around for reasons that will become apparent later on.
As I'm actually currently showing, as you can see, I've got here a group of Jaguar tanks that I can select, but there's nothing I can do about them. These Jaguar tanks currently have no driver, and the pilot being called a desperate driver,
Obviously,
can enter one of these vehicles, take control of them.
yeah. So they can enter empty vehicles and they can pretty much take control of them. They're kind of like a hijacker. They're kind of like a like one of the mutant hijackers from Tiberian's Son. But that's or kind of like that. We have a different unit for that later on here. Okay, so Jaguar tank for now. Dude, let's get over. Let's immediately move on up towards tier 2, and let's start with the delivery man.
Delivery man is here. Actually, I'm not the guy that's spoken that.
No, yeah, I think that would be our very own Gryon Dilak who did that.
You
Who
mean
will be
Grayon?
joining us? Oh yeah, Grayon. I always pronounce it wrong. I'm sorry. Who will be joining us later on the stream tonight? So yeah, the Mortar Quad, Doom. Can you tell us a little bit about them? Because I see a couple of those Jaguar tanks moving up towards your base. I'm sure those quads will come in handy.
Wait, where are they? Where are your tanks?
Right down to the south.
Right
Coming
down
up from
to the
behind you.
Oh, there. Well, to be fair, I'm gonna use something else, namely the support power.
Okay.
The Mortar ambush.
Oh, right! The Latin Confederation Tier 3, a Latin Confederation Tier 3 support power. What it basically does, it's actually a very simple support power that spawns 3 mortar quads anywhere on the map. For a price, of course. So the Mortar Quad, what is it basically? It's a Tier 2 anti-tank artillery unit. It's a fast light infantry unit which can take down armor, as you can see, reasonably easy from a very large distance. Of course, it does have a slight disadvantage in the fact that it does have a reasonably slow projectile, so very fast and agile units are capable of avoiding them. It also seems to be reasonably effective against structures. So yeah, it's primarily an anti-tank artillery for the Latin Confederation. Fast, very mobile, can also be seeded into transports.
Yeah.
And
however, for vehicles such as an IFV or something we'll talk about a little later, it cannot enter because it takes up 2 passenger slots.
Yeah, of course.
Ready to roll out some rounds.
Okay. So yeah, they're reasonably effective against it, because I can't seem to be. I'm not doing a huge amount of damage with my tanks either here.
Nope.
Okay, so then we had the Mortar Quads and their support and their related support power. Let's move on up to, I think, which is one of the most iconic units for the Latin Confederation, probably one of the most effective units, the bomb buggy.
Yep. I've got them right here, and
Just the light.
I hope that I'm not going to be a part of your I'm not gonna be a part of you. What? Okay, whoa.
The Confederation fight for freedom!
Better watch out, because of course, everybody knows the demo truck. We did a couple of changes to them a while back, which makes them way more effective against vehicles and structures instead of infantry due to balancing reasons. The same goes for the bomb buggy. The bomb buggy is basically the Latin Confederation equivalent of the demo truck. It's only the real markedly different. What makes them so markedly different is they have slightly lighter armor than their demo truck counterparts, and they're generally quite a bit faster. So it's much more difficult to intercept them. And as you can see, they are incredibly devastating against structures now.
They're mostly anti-structure, anti-tank.
They're primarily, yeah, anti-structure, anti-tank. But as you can see, they don't really do a huge amount of damage against infantry. Reasonably surviving the blast reasonably well. So it looks like I got lucky with that.
But I did do significant damage to your base.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty large amount of damage. I mean, I'm like missing 4 war factories now. Thanks, Doom.
No problem.
Okay, so moving on, because of course I'm sure you saw those juicy little buildings of me. You certainly want to take them apart. So I'm sure you also have some siege units for us as well.
Yep.
Watch them dance like puppies.
The Buratinos.
Right, the Pinocchios, as they would be called in Russia.
Really?
Yeah, the Buratino is kind of like a Russian is the Russian folklore equivalent of Pinocchio.
No.
Don't ask me why they named them that, but anyway, so the Buratino. The Buratino is the Latin Confederation Tier 3 artillery unit. As you can see, it's definitely the lightest armored of the 3 Soviet artilleries. What it does have in its advantage, of course, it's rather low price. It's very high speed for an artillery unit, and of course, it also has a very large area of effect for its fire. It can definitely large structures and things like that are extra vulnerable to the Buratino. If it gets a lock on those, you can see, for instance, where Doom attacks this very large structure, it goes down in a couple of salvos.
However, the one thing that the Buratino doesn't have for itself is range. It isn't an artillery.
It has probably one of the poorest artillery ranges for Tier 3 artillery. But as you can see, it does kind of make up for that, as it's reasonably effective against infantry. Which of course is often because it's throwing rockets, thermobaric rockets, which is basically just missiles with fire. How cool is that? Okay, so I think that concludes the Buratino. How about we move on to the mighty Catastrophe tank, the Tier 3 heavy tank for the Latin Confederation.
Let's see. Yeah, they are.
Confederation shall prevail. Get out of my way.
Because the Catastrophe tank, it's actually, I guess, if I were to be very mean about it, I would say it's kind of like the poor man's apocalypse tank. I mean, because it kind of has the same role. It also has the same, which we'll get to in a few seconds if you move them up here, Doom. You'll see that they're fairly versatile Tier 3 tanks, because they also feel the Latin Confederation anti-air role for the Tier 3.
And what really makes them unique is the fact that they have passenger slots, and those passengers can fire from within.
Yeah. So of course, if you've got, and I mean, it doesn't sound like much if you have a single infantry with them, but combined also with the heavy caliber of their weaponry, and maybe you can try to tackle some of my Vulture choppers. I see you're doing that already, so you're already getting to work on that. You'll notice they're reasonably effective against aircraft as well. But in combination with, for instance, a Tesla Trooper inside or a Desolator, then you can do so. They're very, very versatile, very flexible units. And they're also reasonably fast at that.
Yeah, just look at how fast I'm getting rid of these buildings.
Yeah, but watch out though. I'll take you down with my Vulture choppers.
I'm not scared.
I think we will actually get to later on, the Vultures. How about we move? Yeah.
It is next on the list.
Oh, it's next on the list. Okay, then we'll do that. The Vulture chopper. So, some of you are thinking, God, why are they calling it a Vulture? It's obviously a siege chopper. Doom, do you perhaps have a couple of demonstrations for us?
Yeah. Well,
Moving in.
the old siege chopper has been refitted to
All systems
A more supportive role.
a more supportive role.
Yeah, because of course the Soviet, they have plenty of anti-structure units to take care of buildings with. They all have their own unique artillery unit. They don't really need another artillery unit to fulfill any other kind of role.
No.
And of course, we heard a lot of things about, the siege chopper. It's not particularly... Well, it can be very effective as a siege unit, depending on how you work with it. But we decided to give it a different role entirely with a support weapon.
As you can see, I'm currently firing on a civilian, and you're seeing a red arrow on the right side. That means that lore-wise, she would have 50% accuracy. Yeah,
or at least 50% decreased accuracy. Yeah.
But of course, that's pretty much unachievable. So her firepower is.
Technically it means her firepower has been cut in half for like a couple of seconds or so. So basically, the siege chopper now, it's also still very effective as an anti-infantry and light aircraft unit, which makes it also a very decent defense option. But with this deploy effect, of course, it can also pretty much turn the tide in especially very large battles where a lot of units can be hit by a smoke bomb at once. It can definitely significantly increase the amount of damage output that an enemy army can do.
Do you have some units for me that I can show it off to?
Yeah, I could do that. Hold on.
Systems operational.
Got a Jaguar just right here.
A single Jaguar.
That's right. I'm gonna attack you. As you can see, generally, if you I'm not sure if you can stop attacking me. I'm not actually sure if that's possible.
I'll just tell them to stop. Fire on somewhere else.
Okay. As you can see, they definitely I'm definitely doing a considerably larger amount of damage with the regular Jaguar damage here. But especially with the smoke bombs on me, they really decrease the amount of damage. So it really increases the survivability of your units. And of course, they've got a pretty decent range. I think kind of the same as when they used to be called the siege chopper. So all in all, a very effective unit.
Moving in.
Grab them if you can.
Looking for clearing.
Okay, dude. So we're almost done with tier 3 units.
No, actually, what I had in mind for this moment, since we are talking about smoke. Let's go over
ahead.
The other. With my.
Yeah, with the other Latin Confederation support power, of course, which are basically, very simply, smoke bombs.
Yeah, if my siege choppers will actually stop doing what I don't want them to do, very much. I see that you've got a couple of infantry there.
Yeah, I already got a couple already.
No, keep them there.
And a couple of mortar quads as well.
I see.
Surprise attack. Thought I could catch you right there before you ran off.
Nope.
Okay, so what you're seeing here right now is, of course, a cargo plane dropping off several smoke bombs in a very large area for a reasonably sustained time. So it's a great way to for area denial, or to kind of make it easier to make a battlefield more accessible and more easier for you to take control of, to get the advantage over. Because of course, because all enemy units who get caught up in the smoke, of course, will have severely decreased damage. So for the Latin Confederation, who generally have the lightest Soviet units, it's definitely a game changer.
We've got the big gun. Airspeed to maximum.
And as an added bonus, the smoke bombs cost absolutely nothing. So just spam them away. You have no excuse not to. They don't. I would like to also note that they don't actually do any damage. They simply decrease the amount of damage that enemy units can inflict. So don't think you can get away with spamming them for damage.
So I guess next up you wanted to do the tier 3 sort of monster tank.
Well, it's not exactly a monster tank. It's more kind of a very heavy infantry support unit called the Dragunov. Doom, you got it here?
I've got a few here.
All right, excellent. How about you meet me up in the center, and I'll come take you on with a couple of infantry.
Turn around.
Oh, Jesus, they're right there. Faster than I thought. Okay, so I'm gonna attack him here. Yeah, you better be careful of my mortar quads.
No,
okay, so
I'm not too scared.
Yeah, yeah, because I already see that what you've done here is you've used the Dragunov's stun guns, so to speak, which can take down infantry slightly above, what they do is that they abduct or capture infantry with their weaponry when they're at about, I think, 50% health or so. And then it basically brings them over to the Latin Confederation side, as you can see here. Which is it's kind of a kind of brainwashing technique. Call it what you like. Basically, it captures weakened enemy infantry, brings them into the Dragunov. You can then deploy them out of the Dragunov, and they'll be under your control.
Yeah.
And as an added bonus,
however,
yeah.
If I may. However,
Of course.
you can see that there's a little healing cross above the Dragunov occasionally. That only applies for tier 1 infantry.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, to balance things out, the Dragunov does have a kind of a healing ring around it, which heals nearby infantry, but it also only does that for really basic tier 1 infantry to increase their survivability. Because, of course, it would be a little bit ridiculous if you could capture several Tesla Troopers or Desolators and then just keep them alive forever.
Do you have a plan?
Yeah. So I'm seeing you have a few more.
I have the
Jaguar.
last couple of amount of Jaguar tanks left.
Okay. Because there was something that I wanted to showcase.
Yeah, because the Dragunov, of course, isn't... Yeah,
I had a little surprise in store for you.
okay.
And earlier, I'll admit we have some time before we
What is the
get
mission?
ready.
Cutting
So I'll take this one Dragu,
to our ways.
Yeah.
There's
deploy them.
always room for more.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Company.
Okay, so yeah, of course, as it's a transport, it can also carry around. It can also carry larger infantry or terror drones. Sure. Okay.
We will entertain them during their stay. We don't want them to wait too long.
But what you really
Classic
wanted, what you really wanted, okay. I see that you have one more. Oh yeah, you've got a few down here near your power plants.
Yeah, I got a couple here.
Good.
I'll just set them here.
Cool. If let's go one-on-one.
One-on-one?
Yeah.
They will submit
Okay, sure.
to our ways.
I mean, of course, the Dragunov isn't entirely defenseless against enemy tanks. Although it doesn't have any... as you can see, it has a gigantic grinder on the front side, which can hold an enemy unit in place, so I won't be able to escape, and it slowly grinds them to bits. The grinder also allows it to destroy walls. It holds enemies in place so that other Confederate forces can catch up with them. Generally, it's not the best unit to have. It's not the best weaponry to have against tanks, but it can definitely stall them. For instance, if you have a fleeing MCV, the Dragunov is probably the number one unit you must have there around there. And of course, if you're actually holding a unit, if you're locking a unit down with the Dragunov, you can also deploy it with terror drones inside, of course, for that extra nasty surprise.
Mortar bodies ready. Let's deliver them.
But of course, we're not done yet, dude. We still have 2 other people to go.
Indeed. Now let me make sure where I put those.
The battlefield
Yeah.
is just like a giant
Because of course I was just talking a little while ago about the mutant hijacker from Tiberian Sun,
I swear,
and we
officer,
pretty much have a kind of a spiritual successor for this caricature, I believe,
The
which is
hijacker.
very self-explanatory, called the Hijacker. So the Hijacker, well, I think that's yeah, pretty much, I think the name kind of explains itself. What does it do? It can disguise as an enemy infantry and can take control of any how do I put this, non-robot controllable ground unit. So basically, of course, it can't take control of, for instance, a robot tank or the future tank or a Stinger because they're all robotic units. But any other unit which is pretty much hijack, pretty much any other unit which has a driver inside it, barring, I think, miners and MCVs, of course, do not have this as the case. But you can see that it can be pretty devastating. It's if you can take control of an exceptionally powerful unit, then you can disrupt a lot of enemy forces. And of course, the Hijacker is uncrushable by normal vehicles, because it would be pretty stupid if you were just going to rush up to that gigantic tank to capture it and then you get squished by it.
And I think that only leaves one final person.
Exactly. Well, get him out of here then.
Colonel Morales.
as fast as I can.
Sweet.
I think that
Well,
for the first...
kind of the replacement for Boris there.
Yeah, I think that for the first thing that we're gonna show off, I wanted a nice line along the road, if possible, of infantry.
Ah, yeah, of course. Because Morales, he carries an armor-piercing incendiary sniper rifle, which also kind of functions. Oh, Jesus!
My blood is boiling.
Which, if you target a unit with yeah, exactly. Because every unit that Morales hits, every infantry, if there's any other infantry that's in the way, it automatically takes them out as well. So basically, you can just if you can get off a tricky shot like that, you can immediately kill off several infantry in a single shot. So you have to be very aware of how you're going to position Morales, of course, because he is a sniper. I think he's probably the only sniper that we have, or at least the usual sniper that we have in skirmish, I believe. But that's of course is not the only thing he can do.
Nope.
Need a smuggler?
Some of you might be wondering how in the early start of the match I had those Jaguar tanks that had no driver. That is also Morales' doing.
Is to the people.
Yeah, because of course Morales he's got this kind of ability, kind of like from Generals, I believe. Don't remember the name of the hero at the moment. Carmen Gel, I believe. Who had the capability of being able to literally shoot out the driver of a vehicle and pretty much leaving them abandoned. Now, as you can see, this is really effective on light tanks. I had a terror drone here somewhere, so that I could. Oh well, it's not a problem at all. Of course, this only works for units that do have a driver within them. But if, for instance, if you have robotic units, then it simply does a huge amount of damage to them. So that's of course a bit of a drawback that he has for robotic units.
Yeah. Now, speaking about those empty Jaguar tanks at the moment, as you might remember, I used the desperate driver earlier
What are your conditions?
to capture them. However, engineers work as well.
Yeah, all engineers for all factions can all capture empty vehicles, as well as desperate drivers and naturally, of course, hijackers.
Looks like a good run.
But of course, such a powerful force means, of course, that Morales should have some balances. Of course, for instance, Morales cannot capture incredibly heavy units. So, for instance, almost all Tier 3 units cannot be their driver cannot be fired upon, or their driver cannot be killed. Instead, as you can see, it does a moderate amount of damage. So Morales is really he's very dedicated for basically killing off weak units or for picking off high priority targets. So yeah, he's very effective against pretty much everything except Tier 3 units, I would say, and of course air units, but that's kind of a given. But of course we can't have a replacement for Boris without his airstrike, now can we?
Nope.
I mean, that's probably, I thought that was probably one of the coolest things that Boris had.
Absolutely. And that's why Morales now has it. But instead of a
Although with a
regular...
bit of a twist.
Yeah, it's a tactical nuclear strike.
Yeah, because normal missiles are boring, man. Everything is cooler with nukes. But you do have to be careful because, of course, Morales has a rather slow rate of fire, and he is pretty fast. So you can often just outrun your opponent, and then just give a little bit of a fire back then occasionally, like that. Well done. Okay. So, for the rest, Morales is incredible. He's also an incredibly effective siege unit, as he's got a pretty decent range of that. He does have a bit of a wind-up time, of course, before the planes actually get there. But once they get there, they're absolutely destructive. Maybe you can even try it out on, yeah, exactly, my MCV. Give that a shot.
Select target.
Tango preparando.
Yeah, they could.
As you can, yeah, it just takes.
And of course, oh, in one single shot. So you definitely, really have to be careful with what you do.
Stop
As you can see, Morales can also kill the driver of tier 2 units. So yeah, definitely very effective.
Well,
Okay, so I think
that's about
that
everything.
we've
That is about
yeah,
everything.
I think we've covered everything for the Latin Confederation.